My first Gematria Decode of the Old Fire that occurred in Southern California in 2003 feels very amateurish. But now I have dug up another enormous multitude of connections and overlaps and how they tie into the last baseball game of the 100th World Series that were completely absent from my first video. The whole burning of San Bernardino Mountains was part of the World Series ritual. The 100th World Series took place in 2003. I'm not going to go over everything in the first video I did about this. This is like a sequel to that video. The Old Fire began on October 25, 2003, the same day the last game of the 100th World Series was played. If you read Zachary Hubbard's book, Letters and Numbers, you will learn that disasters such as fires and weather warfare-related disasters, such as hurricanes, will often be tied via gematria into the scripted sports events such as football, baseball, and boxing, and many others that are happening around the time of the disaster. And this Old Fire was definitely tied into the World Series going on at the time. First of all, I discovered further that San Bernardino, California sums to 222 in the English ordinal cipher, just like the Masonic motto, Order out of Chaos, sums to 222 in reverse ordinal. They create the chaos and then impose their form of order in response to it. The fire began in San Bernardino, and I believe it actually burned parts of it. October 25, 2003 was a date with 38 numerology, which made it perfect to start a fire. Fire, 38 English ordinal, and 25 in reverse full reduction. Fireman, 38 reverse full reduction. Of course, the date being 25, the word death also equals 25. In 2003, the total solar eclipse occurred on November 23, 2003, 29 days after the start of the Old Fire, where fire equals 29. Yes, they do use total solar eclipses in some of these big rituals as a time reference, I learned. The World Series Championship coming to an end that day was the 100th World Series. 38 full reduction. And do you know which baseball team won the World Series that year? It was a Florida team, Marlins. Florida, 38 full reduction. The sports are scripted by this code. You got a date with 38 numerology. The 100th World Series, where the word 100 sums to 38. And you got a Florida team winning, where Florida sums to 38. There is going to be plenty more of 38 popping up. But now I want to point out the number 150 playing a role in this ritual. World Series 150 reverse ordinal. The fire starts in San Bernardino, which has a nickname San Berdu, summing also to 150 in reverse ordinal. I'm not cheating here by using the nickname, because there is another number that is going to play an extreme role in this ritual, and why that city was chosen. And that will be the number 134, which we'll get to later. The fire began in San Bernardino and affected the Arrowhead area in the mountains. Arrowhead, 150 reverse ordinal. By the way, since this fire occurred in San Bernardino County, which became a county in the year 1853, I don't know what date, San Bernardino County was 150 years old in the year 2003. Now you are beginning to see why the government chose to burn that area on that day in relation to the scripted baseball game ritual. Now let's turn our attention to the number 134, a number symbolizing destruction, which I'll explain why in a second. San Bernardino 134, English ordinal. By happenstance, San Bernardino City was also 134 years old at the time, with 67 days left in the year on the date the fire started, and the Marlins won the World Series. And 67 is another number that plays into this. San Bernardino was incorporated as a city on August 10, 1869. In the previous video, I've examined the gematria of the name of the fictional arsonist on whom the old fire was blamed, one Ricky Lee Fowler, and how his name gematria connected to the words murder and fire and arsonist. But I also missed something blatantly obvious, how just his first and last name, with the middle name omitted, Ricky Fowler, sums to 134 in English ordinal, just like San Bernardino sums to 134, a city that was 134 years old at the time, and on the outskirts of which the old fire began. New World Order, 134, ALW and KFW, Kabbalah ciphers. Pyromaniacs, 134, English ordinal. To further appreciate the significance of 134, and how it is a number signifying destruction, something that is stressed in Zach Hubbard's book Letters and Numbers, we need to look at a Jewish holiday known as Tisha B'Av, or 9th of Av. Tisha B'Av is an annual fast day in Judaism, on which a number of disasters in Jewish history occurred, primarily the destruction, emphasis on destruction, of both Solomon's temple by the Neo-Babylonian Empire and the Second Temple by the Roman Empire in Jerusalem. Tisha B'Av is regarded as the saddest day in the Jewish calendar, and it is thus believed to be a day which is destined for tragedy. By the way, the destruction of the Twin Towers on 9/11 was meant to symbolize the destruction of both the Solomon's and Herod's temples. Tisha B'Av falls in July or August in the Gregorian calendar, and here's why 134 is the number of destruction. Tisha B'Av, 134, reverse ordinal. 9th of Av, 134, reverse ordinal. In 2003, Tisha B'Av fell on August 7, which put it 79 days prior to the October 25 date, or 2 months and 18 days prior. The word murder sums to 79 in ordinal, as does the last name of the fictitious arsonist, Fowler. 2 months and 18 days is also a lot like 218, where death sums to 218 in the English extended cipher. Now let's look at another date that actually ignited this fire ritual. October 21, 2003, which was a date with 54, 9, and 27 numerology, on which the Cedar Fire began. 54 and 9. Baseball has 9 innings and 54 outs. Baseball sums to 54 in English ordinal and 27 in single reduction. MLB sums to 27 in English ordinal and to 9 in full reduction. Game 3 of the World Series was taking place on October 21, where the Yankees would win over the Marlins, even though the Marlins would go on to win the World Series. In the previous video about this, I pointed out how the Cedar Fire on October 21 was started by a lost hunter in the woods using a signal flare to call for help, and that the fire occurred outside a community called Ramona. Signal and Ramona had a perfect gematria overlap in all 4 of the base ciphers, but Yankees also have a gematria overlap of 26 and 37 with those words, and it was at 5:37 p.m. that the Cedar Fire was first reported, started by a fictitious hunter whose name was Sergio, where Sergio sums to 37 in full reduction. And since Ramona is in San Diego sums to 38 and 34, like Fire and Florida. In light of Marlins winning the World Series on October 25, 2003, the words Wildfire and Marlins overlap, 86-49. The Old Fire was one of 15 wildfires throughout Southern California that month, which became known as the 2003 firestorm and the fire siege of 2003. 15 wildfires? 15 has a nice overlap with Florida. This included the huge Cedar Fire, what was the second largest fire in California's history after the Santiago Canyon Fire of 1889. The Santiago Canyon Fire reference turned out to be very important in this ritual. Santiago has that same 86-49 gematriot as Marlins and the word wildfire. Occultic sums to 86 and 49. The Santiago Canyon Fire occurred on September 24, 1889, 114 years prior to the date of October 25, 2003. The anniversary of Santiago Canyon Fire was 31 days prior, where old sums to 31 to go along with the 31 date numerology of October 25th. And so this brings us to the number 114, another major number playing a role in this ritual. The Florida Marlins have a nickname, the Fish. The Fish, 114 reverse ordinal. San Bernardino, California, 114 full reduction. Holocaust, 114 English ordinal, signifying mass death by a large fire. The Fish, 39 full reduction. Old Fire, 39 reverse full reduction. And here's how I believe the government chose to burn the area they did in connection to the World Series. With the victory in the 2003 World Series, the Marlins became the first National League team since the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1981, Dodgers being the last opposing team to win a series championship at Yankee Stadium, to win the World Series without having home field advantage. Like they need a home field advantage for a scripted fucking game. Notice how Yankee Stadium sums to 49 in full reduction, just like Marlins is 49. Gives you a glimpse how they script these games. So what occurred here is the Marlins stole a record from the Dodgers, a Los Angeles team, where Los Angeles is not that far from San Bernardino on the map. Dodgers, 117 reverse ordinal. Why is 117 important? San Bernardino sits on 117 Meridian West, and so does the whole area that was burned by the Old Fire. The fire affected the mountains, Mountains 117 reverse ordinal. Major League Baseball 117 reverse full reduction. 2003 117 reverse full reduction with the E and P exception. And speaking of 67 days left in the year, and how the old fire was attributed to arson, the word arson sums to 67 in English ordinal. Wildfire 67 in reverse full reduction, where E is counted as 22. Fireman 67 Jewish ordinal. And the fire was set on Old Waterman Canyon Road, where Old Waterman Canyon Road sums to 331, the 67th prime number, and Waterman itself sums to 49 in reverse full reduction, just like Marlins and Wildfire, and the word revelation in reference to the biblical revelation. Waterman 121 49. Revelation 121 English ordinal, 49 full reduction. Waterman 67 reverse full reduction, where E counts as 22. Revelation 67 full reduction, where V counts as 22. Fowler 67 ALW Kabbalah. Marlin by itself adds up to 67 in English ordinal. To get a complete picture of this ritual, we have to bring in Josh Beckett, the pitcher for the Marlins, who got the Most Valuable Player award in the last game of the 2003 World Series when his team won the final game. Being a pitcher adds up to 38 in reverse full reduction. Josh Beckett's birthday is May 15, which was 163 days prior to October 25, 163 being the 38th prime number. Waterman Canyon 167, the 39th prime number. The Fish 39 full reduction. Josh Beckett's birthday is May 15, 1980, and he was 23 years old when his team became winners of the 2003 World Series, and he was also 203 days away from his 24th birthday. 23 years old, 203 days away from his next birthday, in the year 2003. Arnold Schwarzenegger was 23 days away from taking up office as the California governor on November 17, 2003. Him being the winner of a recall selection. Not election. Voting has never mattered. All politicians are put in power by these numerical rituals. Arnold was to become the 38th governor of California. And how does the number 23 and 38 connect? They connect through language. 23, Josh Beckett's age at that time. When 23 is written out as words, it sums to 163 in English ordinal, the 38th prime number, where Josh Beckett's team won the World Series 163 days after Josh Beckett turned 23. San Bernardino is named after Saint Bernardino, where Saint Bernardino sums to 163, the 38th prime number. Just as an interesting tidbit, at the time of the fires, Californians had the governor recall election on their minds, which had just recently transpired. And guess what? Look at the Gematria overlap between recall election and San Bernardino. There is your 134 again, along with 62 and 80. The recall election took place on October 7, 2003, and if you include the end date in the calculation, it was a span of 19 days before the old fire started and all hell broke loose. Or 2 weeks and 5 days. 2 weeks and 5 days is like 25. Fire is 25. Chaos is 19. It's mind-blowing how vast this jigsaw puzzle is, how it dovetails with all the other numerical puzzles. Think of how this fire happened on a Saturday as well, a day of the week attributed to Saturn and named after Saturn, where the elites worship the deity Saturn, and how Saturn sums to 93 in English ordinal, same as Arrowhead, the area that was targeted for burning, summing to 93 in English ordinal as well. And speaking of Saturn and 38, the 38th triangular number is 741, where Saturn equals 741 in the English extended cipher. Saturday 107 109, military 107 109. Think how most likely they used military technology, such as directed energy weapons, to start the fire and make it unstoppable. The name Beckett sums to 123 in reverse ordinal. The event would be labeled as Firestorm 2003, where if you write that out as words, it sums to 123 in full reduction. Same as Rim Forest, the village that was partly burned, whose name is an anagram of Firestorm, which only means the word firestorm by itself also sums to 123 as well. Another name they labeled this event is Fire Siege of 2003, which sums to 409 in reverse ordinal, like Marlins sums to 49, where in Gematria you can drop zeros from numbers. Florida Marlins 70, full reduction. Fire 70, reverse ordinal. Fireman 70, ordinal. Think how the name Josh Beckett can also be expressed as Joshua Beckett. The Santa Ana winds were, of course, blamed for the spread of the fire. And if that's the case, how did the fire go up the mountain, when Santa Ana winds gust south down the mountain, always without exception, never in reverse? Marvel at the overlap between Joshua Beckett and Santa Ana winds. 140, 41, 211. Waterman Canyon also sums to 211 in reverse ordinal. The name Joshua can also be expressed as Yehoshua, from which Joshua is derived, and Yehoshua sums to 114. As a mockery, in Rim Forest, the fire that burned down several houses with enough heat to melt steel happened to stop right in front of a fire station, leaving it completely unscathed, which felt like mockery. And if something feels like mockery with these rituals, that's not a coincidence, it's deliberate. That firehouse is Station 30, which sums to 49, just like Marlin's. I want to take a look at this playground fire that is mentioned, and the mockery involved with the story behind how it started. The playground fire was blamed on a character named Jeremiah D. Hope, who was supposedly evacuating from the fires already burning the mountain, when he went off-road in his vehicle, and the catalytic converter accidentally ignited another catastrophic fire. Yeah, just think of the joke in this story. A person evacuating from a wildfire accidentally ignites another wildfire. I'm not sure why they waited 4 years to arrest the guy on August 7, 2007, or why on that date. It seems like this is one of those things where you either have the evidence right away, or you never will, so why is it taking 4 years? Jeremiah Hope was 25 years old, we're told. Fire, 25. Look at how the word playground and government perfectly overlap in all 4 of the base ciphers. Jeremiah is a character from the Bible, who was depicted as lamenting the destruction of Jerusalem. So here's your Tisha B'Av tie-in. Jeremiah Hope 211, the 47th prime number, connects to the Gematria of Playground. In the Bible there is the Book of Jeremiah 133. Jeremiah D. Hope 81. 81 has the square root of 9 connecting to baseball, where MLB sums to 9. Hope 123 Jewish Gematria. Like Beckett, like Firestorm. Who the hell walks around in this day and age with a name like Jeremiah? And why don't they give his full middle name instead of just the middle initial? That's because of Gematria. If they come up with a full middle name, they won't have the right Gematria. There were so many fires burning at the time that it's impossible for me to track why each one was set, where it was set. But, Holocaust sums to 57, just like Jews sums to 57. Crestline and Rim Forest sum to 57, the places affected by the fire. Grand Prix sums to 57. Padua sums to 29, like fire. Part of California State University ended up being damaged by the Old Fire, which I can't conceive how that happened, if the fire is natural. But of course, it figures that the university had to be damaged in this ritual, because it had the right numbers. California State University sums to 117 in full reduction. Just the initials, CSU, sum to 43, like Florida, and 38, like fire. For even more mocking, in high school, Josh Beckett, when he was a baseball player in high school, was nicknamed Kid Heat. Get it? Kid Heat. In full reduction, Kid Heat sums to 31, just like the name of the fire, Old, sums to 31. For even further mockery, the fictitious arsonist on whom the Old Fire is blamed is named Ricky Lee Fowler, emphasis on the last name Fowler. Well, we're told at some point Josh Beckett was featured in a music video alongside a singer-songwriter named Kevin Fowler, who shares the same last name as the arsonist. The name Ricky Lee Fowler was perfectly coded for this ritual, where Fowler and murder overlap, along with a number for fire and arsonist. Ricky, 55. Burn, 55. And of course he started the fire with a flare, where flare sums to 93, like Saturn, like Arrowhead. I can only speculate what might happen on the 117th World Series, which will occur in the year 2020. We know that Dodgers sums to 117. Is it possible they'll script that Dodgers will win the 117th World Series? And since Dodgers are from LA, I imagine parts of Los Angeles on the 117th meridian might start burning. But maybe not. Maybe they have some other numerical script for some other disaster, like a man-made hurricane in some other part of the country. The person could have had a forest with pine trees to live in right now, if only the date numerology had not come together the way it had on that day for this ritual to occur. Doing things by the Gematria Code must be so fun, because you can stage an event that looks natural, that is meant to be perceived as natural, and yet scripting it by the Gematria Code conceals that the hand of man is responsible for the event, and that it was a very controlled situation, that the fires were not natural, they were acts of terrorism. See how the fire got put out on November 2nd, 2003, a date with 27, 9, and 18 numerology, like MLB sums to 27, 9, and 18, almost the same as the word baseball. Just perfect to complete this fire ritual that is intermeshed with the World Series. And you could also say the fire burned for 9 days, if you include the end date,